What all bands have you been in throughout your entire musical career, Shadi?
Okay, the Southern Illinois Blues All Stars, the Ivis John Band, Big Larry and the Down Home Blues Band, Minimum Wage, the Square Jays, Sweet and Low, Good and Plenty, Caravan, Larry Dillard's Blues Therapy, Train Azul, um, goodness, Secondhand Cartoons, I've already said minimum wage.
It's like a game show.
Sucks to get old. My memory's gone. King Juba. There's so many. I've played with Sharon Clark. You're gonna have to edit the heck out of this.
No, this is it, man. This is the gold. This is the gold, man. That gets you close to it, and that gets us into episode 10. We're in double digits now. We've grown up. We're in our preteens now that we've reached episode 10. And the person that is here for this episode is Mr. Shadi Frick, somebody who folks all over town, all over Southern Illinois know. Very much a Mr. Music type, but so much more to him than that. And I'm excited to get to know him a little bit more and get to share that person with you folks today. And as we were just talking here, I missed that part. It's WTF Carbondale, the podcast where we talk to interesting people about their interesting lives, and we tie it all back to this little old place we call home, Carbondale, Illinois. And you really know how to call this place home because you're like a generational resident. I don't even have to ask you where you're from or how you got here because you just a rock rolled down the street one day and that was you.
That's true. That's true. I mean, my great-great-grandparents are from Carbondale. Well, they moved to Carbondale, and then from there, we all got stuck in town.
Do you know what brought your great-great-grandparents to Carbondale to begin with?
Honestly,
syndicated crime? No, I'm just...
Actually, I think it was my great-grandparents that brought my great-great-grandparents into town.
Okay.
Because my great-grandfather, who was actually a pretty famous chef throughout Carbondale and one of the first cooks at Giant City Lodge, moved here from Hickman, Kentucky. And my great-grandmother was originally from Mounds, Illinois. And somehow or another ended up in Carbondale. And I'm not sure if anybody really knows how they got here other than maybe for work. But ever since then, my grandparents, my parents, and me, and now my kids are going through it. So I guess my kids are Generation 6.
Nice.
So for better or for worse.
I dig that, man. And I don't talk to a lot of people that are as towny in this place as I am. Like I kind of tell folks that come through, it's like, yeah, it's kind of like the Matrix. They do make us here. There are some of us that are born without the little plug-in in the back of our necks.
Right. Yeah. A lot of people have asked me, well, why haven't you left town? And I said, why would I leave this place?
Yeah.
It's given my family and me the best of all worlds. And as a musician, I mean, what better place in Southern Illinois? I mean, it's its own oasis,
Yeah.
So
it's a real wonder wall.
Yeah.
I'm just making Oasis jokes. I'm sorry. Forgive me. No, I mean, and it's very much when you look at places throughout modern America musical history, right? It's always been very place-based. A Muscle Shoals, Alabama, a Motown, I don't know, you're way better at this than I am, but yeah, I mean, that's the kind of vibe that I get out of Carbondale for musicians. Sure. Is that something that you kind of...
Well, yeah, and we've had a lot of very talented musicians come through Carbondale. Actually, one of the earliest famous musicians to come from Carbondale is Frankie Trumbauer, who performed with Louis Armstrong, and actually has his own space in Wikipedia and all these places. But I actually named my junior high jazz band award after Frankie Trumbauer, and they're like, who the heck is this guy? And was a saxophonist for I think eventually moved out of Carbondale to become famous because, Big Twist is another one that comes to my mind. sh- uh, here goes my memory again. Sean Colvin, of course.
Oh yeah, yeah. I actually I had talked to one of her booking agents here like maybe a year ago or so.
Yeah.
He wanted like $15,000 to come back to town.
Just to come back. Well, maybe you should persuade some of her old bandmates to talk her into.
I don't know if the old bandmates would help bring her back or not too. Like somebody's like, I don't know what her relationship is with her old bandmates and stuff like that. And I know we've had Jim Bruno like come back to town for stuff before as well. And here I'm getting close to breaking one of my own rules in this conversation. But you get what I'm saying. It's like they're out there, but yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, I don't know what to do to get her to not cost $15,000 to come back to town.
Personal phone call. Please come back to Carbondale.
And
we need you.
I think I like messaged her on Facebook or like messaged her page on Facebook or something. I didn't even know how big of a deal that she was. I think I just like saw somebody share a post and I was like, hey, you want to come back to town for a show? And the next thing I know, it's like, okay, well, yeah, we'll come back for a show, but it's going to cost you.
Must be nice to have that kind of star power, I guess.
We still have, I mean, how many people that still just live around town either have a Grammy or have been Grammy nominated? There's at least
absolutely. several. And that reminds me, another person I used to perform with, Kevin Lucas.
Uh-huh.
He's a Grammy nominated artist. I played with him for several years when it was the Dead Musician Society and then the Kevin Lucas Orchestra.
Mm-hmm.
And I played music with him and he's a very talented musician.
No, I like Kevin. The dude has got so much energy in a space that so few people operate with the unique percussion instruments that he plays. Like, how do you complement that from your own perspective? I mean, what are your kind of main focuses that you like to play, and how do you kind of complement other folks with what you play?
Oh, well, a lot of it just depends on the group. As a bass player, which is my first love, my dad was a bass player. I feel like it's my role to hold down the groove and be a supporting role. Mm-hmm. If I'm playing keys and sax in a band like King Juba, or if I'm playing sax with Ivis or whoever might be hiring me, then it's a supporting role as a either an accompanist or a soloist. Mm-hmm. And back in the day when I had my own jazz groups, the Good and Plenty, which became Caravan, which I got fired from my own band. That's a story we could talk about too.
We absolutely will. I want to know how you get fired from your own band.
But as a leader, it's a lot more difficult to lead a band than it is to just be in a band, because then you have to deal with booking the band at places. That means you have to work with people and make phone calls and text people and negotiate and contracts. I just want to play my instrument and make some money, and entertain people. And then working in my studio, I feel like my job then as a recording engineer is to help make or support the musician that's coming in the room to make them sound the best that they can possibly be,
Oh, absolutely. How long have you had the studio for now?
2005.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
And, and I've got to give a shout out to a lot of my studio friends around here, Mike Lascelius, Jim Forrester, who runs Mohole Studios, Josie, Robbie Stokes. They've all really been supportive. Like when I first got started with recording and things like that, I would ask a bazillion questions. In fact, I spent a good part of my Christmas break in 2001 at Mike Lascelius' studio, more so just to nose around and see how he mics things up and how he runs the studio. And it was worth the studio time just to get that experience. So, yeah, I've got, I would not be where I'm at without the help of all of my friends and colleagues in the music business in Southern Illinois. Yeah. So, I got to give them props.
I mean, it's a community thing, right? You can't just build up as a single individual doing
it's totally anything. It's a family affair. And that's the other thing I really like about Southern Illinois and Carbondale in particular. I mean, all of us know each other and respect each other. If doesn't matter if we're a hip hop artist or a country artist or a funk band or a blues band or whatever. I mean, we all network and we all, we work well together, and it's like a big family.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of cool that it's just big enough that kind of everybody can participate, but it's just small enough that everybody actually knows each other.
Right. Like that's what makes Carbondale great, because, it's kind of where you can make yourself known as a musician, but you're still part of a community without being, I don't want to say big fish in a little pond or whatever. But
you can have your big twist and your mellow yellow.
Right. Exactly.
No, so you were talking a little bit before we got started with this as well, just about how you got to work with some of the legendary artists, in the scene at a young age, like coming up. You don't just have the experience of having joined a band and kind of stumbled your way through it and whatever. You almost have like more of a pointed opportunity to work with the people that really were the best of the best.
It's really been either a big stroke of luck or a blessing, or maybe a curse. I don't know. Because my dad and my uncle, Ford and Ronnie Frick, had a band from I would say the late 1950s, and they played up through the early 1990s off and on here in Southern Illinois. Mm-hmm. So a lot of my weekends as a kid would be going to what we called the animal clubs, the Elks, the Moose, the Eagles, they were family-friendly places.
Have physical club locations too? I don't know.
I'm sorry?
I said, did Lions have physical club locations too? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't remember going to any Lions clubs.
Yeah.
But as a kid, I thought it was so cool to be a part, and I just went to hang out. And, I didn't know I was absorbing all of this knowledge of music. And then I remember learning about the Nashville number system before I learned how to read music. and I would tell people, we're going to a 1 chord to a 4 chord or whatever, and they're like, "What the heck are you talking about?"
So what is the Nashville version? I don't know anything about music.
Nashville number system is based on scale degrees. Okay. Like if you're in the key of C, C is 1, D is 2, E is 3, F is 4, G is 5, etc., etc. And then you've got your majors and your minors, and so instead of specifying a chord, like if we're playing a song in the key of B flat and all of a sudden the band leader or somebody wants to change it to another key, we don't have to worry about chord changes. We just have the numbers to work with, which to me is a lot easier. Mm-hmm. But I remember my mom and my dad both saying, don't be musically illiterate, don't just depend on your ears. Mm-hmm. And I really fought it for a long time because, I played piano by ear growing up. And any instrument I picked up, I played by ear first. And I really did not read music well until I was in high school. Mm-hmm. And then I realized, hey, I needed to get this under my thumb, or else I'm not going to make it in college or anywhere else. And it really served me well to learn how to read and to use my ears. It's given me a lot of really good opportunities.
Nice. So have you always known that like music was the career path that you wanted to go to then?
I would say from just under my preteen years on, I knew that's what I was good at, mm-hmm. and I wanted to pursue it somehow or another. At one time, I thought I was going to be a jazz musician living in the city, playing gigs, and mm-hmm. Initially I was going to be a jazz studies major, move away from Carbondale, get a jazz studies degree, play gigs, work towards, making it as a jazz musician. Mm-hmm. Actually, my real dream was to become a studio musician, like for a studio band, like a TV studio band, the David Letterman band. I used to love Johnny Carson's band, the Tonight Show band, the original mm-hmm. Doc Severinsen band. I thought, man, how cool would it be to have a gig where you just play music and millions of people get to watch you on TV, and you have that for me, I love the challenge of having something thrown in front of me music-wise. And, okay, we're going to play this song tonight at the show. Be ready for it. And you know, I've had some opportunities like that locally, which I appreciate. But, you know, it's amazing how things, you know, what you think is going to happen with your life and then what really comes to being. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. I mean, SIU Carbondale and the School of Music was very good to me when I decided to go to school here. I mean, I already knew all the professors, the music professors, particularly Mike Haynes. I grew up knowing Mike through church. I mean, Eric Mandette was my saxophone professor. Bob Allison was my jazz band, and Phil Brown. All those guys I grew up knowing. And so it felt like home to me. And, you know, I really enjoyed my college years were probably the best years of my life because not only did I get to really hone my craft, but I also got to gig in town and it kind of established myself as a musician here. And I was also getting my music education degree, and I knew I wanted to teach. And even in college, I remember Mike Haynes telling me, and I even have it written down in one of my, I still have it's called the Mike Haynes binder. When you were in his class, you had to keep a binder of things that, you know, just articles and things. This is before the internet. So
back when you had to clip it out.
Right.
And copy and paste.
And I remember one of the notes Mike said to me was, you know, you would be great working with younger kids. I thought, man, no, forget it. I'm going to teach high school students. And, you know, here I am. I'm in my 16th year at Carbondale Middle School, and I love it. I love working with middle school kids. And they like people look at me like I'm crazy, and I'm like, but I mean, I can work with these kids. I can still shape them and teach them how to love music. And it's not only about music, but it's about you know, when I was in junior high, I mean, music was such an important part of my life, and the being around other like-minded people was kind of like my safe haven. And I really try to foster that with my kids at the middle school.
You mean to be around like-minded people? I'm just.
I don't know about that, but no, seriously though, I mean, the kids are like family to me, and I really love what I do. And you know, I always say I'm a music educator first and a musician second. And sometimes those roles are reversed, but you know, I love teaching as much as I love performing, and I really feel like it was a calling given to me, because I feel like it's, as a performer, I can perform and entertain somebody for a night, and they'll just go about their merry way, and oh yeah, that was great, you know. But if you can teach a kid music, that's something they can have for the rest of their life. And love it, you know. And I tell my students, I said, you don't have to be a professional musician to love music. And you know, I've had some very talented kids come from Carbondale that have made it big. I taught a hip hop class at Carbondale Middle School for a few years, and one of the kids that came through my class is Cortland Jabray, who's a major hip hop artist right now. You know.
We just shot a music video on Friday, so I'm serious. Like we just
really
shot a video with it. The one that he popped up on his Facebook yesterday.
Wow,
is the one that we
fun.
Filmed. So
you know, and it makes me happy to see. You know, I keep in touch with so many of my former students, and it's scary that some of them are in their 30s now. But you know, because I used to think I was the young band director,
right?
And now I'm turning into an old fart. But but I really like having those connections with them, and just to see how they've prospered in life, whether they've continued on in music or if they just love music. But it's you know, being a part of something. It's very family type atmosphere, and yeah, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Well, it's almost like eventually you will make it to that Tonight Show or that late show, and it may not be you there physically, but a part of you is going to be there with one of your students.
Well, that would totally thrill me. That would be worth it. You know, and yeah, I mean, I never know who, you know, from fourth grade all the way through eighth grade. You know, it's such a cool thing to see a kid open up their instrument case for the first time and make the squeaks and squawks and whatever, or you know, and every kid wants to be a drummer too, so they're beating on stuff.
Okay, so how I have a question for you personally because I need help with this.
Okay.
All right, so my kids, Zach picked up a trumpet. Peyton picked up the flute. Peyton's really latched on the flute. We've got her a little keyboard to play with and so on and so forth. Zach didn't like the trumpet, so I went out and got him a decent starter set of drums off Craigslist.
Oh, no, you didn't.
I did.
Oh, no.
Oh, I went and got the whole... I went and got
You
the
terrible
whole,
person.
What, for getting him the whole kit and caboodle?
Well, no. For putting him on drums. It's too many drummers.
But now he doesn't want to touch them.
Oh, that's great.
And I don't know what to do with him next because they're both interested in music, but he just... Anyway, doesn't like
the drums on
If
Heartland
you're saying it's
Community
not a
Swap
problem
and
because
tell
we
them
got
to
too many
forget about it.
drummers, great. I'm on board. maybe that is the right thing.
I had 21 drummers in the middle school drum line last year. And we sounded great. Don't get me wrong. And I got to give out a shout out to my drum coach, Jermaine Bollinger, who's been my drum coach for years. And he also a fellow musician that I play in bands with. But 21 drummers. Oh my goodness. Out of a band of 80 kids. You know,
how many drummers is a good balance for a band of 80 kids in that
about
case?
5. yeah, you know. And I'm biased. No, it really I think every kid gravitates towards drums because it's something they can do. You know, my beginning band teacher put me on a trumpet.
Yeah.
I wanted to play tenor saxophone. There was Shivelbine's music had no tenor saxophones on display. She's like, "Here, try this trumpet. You'll love it." A week later, get me a saxophone or I quit.
They were like, "Oh no, we want your money. We can't let you quit now."
Oh,
I lucked out. We got a really inexpensive deal on a set of nice flutes for Peyton, and the Shivelvine's contracts were aggressive, but I imagine you've at least got a good relationship there for many years.
I've always had a good relationship, business relationship with Shivelbines, and you know they're kind of a dying breed.
Yeah,
really. I mean, for them to be able to survive, I mean the rental programs are their bread and butter.
Oh yeah.
But the problem that all of us are facing, including the music stores, is you know, a good quality beginner instrument is almost cost prohibitive, even from a rental standpoint.
Yeah.
When I was in grade school, a beginner level saxophone, it was a quality brand, was about $700. A beginner saxophone now, you're talking at least twice that.
Wow.
And the thing that we're up against now are what I call the internet. I won't specify any websites, but the internet overseas made saxophone, well, any instrument you can, you know, when the price seems too good,
there's a reason.
Yeah. when a saxophone's $150, there's a reason for it. And you know, generally like with my students, if it's cost prohibitive for them to buy or rent an instrument through the music store, I will personally go out and try to find them an instrument, and we have some instruments at the school that we loan out to kids. And but you know, I always make sure that no matter what their social economic status is, that they have an instrument to play on. I mean, quite honestly, my saxophone when I was in grade school got repoed. I mean, family was going through tough times, and if it weren't for having a school instrument to use up through my junior year of high school, goodness knows where I'd be at today.
That's a beautiful
Maybe
story.
I'd be a stand-up comedian.
And just got to be one more you musicians out there saying you can be stand-up comedians. You
Well,
guys
I could be a laying down comedian. I could just lay down flat on the floor and tell some jokes.
I love it. I always bust chops of performers and stuff. I'm like, you guys always, it's like, hey, what's a musician really want to be? They really want to be a stand-up comedian, but they can't do it without an instrument in their hand.
Right. Well, we have to have something to dodge the tomatoes. So
That's it.
we've got the
That's it.
saxophone in the way or the guitar.
No, I mean that's a big thing, right? Because we live in a society where it is something that if you don't have the material means to acquire, something like an instrument, that you're just left on the sidelines. So knowing that you're in there trying to facilitate and find the ways to get these kids involved in music one way or the other, it's a big deal, man.
Well, it's a big deal to me because I lived it, and I know what it's like. Financially, I've been all over the place, and I know families in Carbondale who are very affluent, and I know families in Carbondale who, without assistance, would be in really bad shape. And you know what? To me, I think everybody should have that opportunity, regardless. And if I have to go, I've loaned out personal instruments of mine to kids to use, and I wouldn't blink an eye at it. I just want to make sure that they have that opportunity, and that's one thing I think is good about our school, because we offer not only band, but we have an orchestra program and a choral program, and we're the only school in Southern Illinois that offers that, really. We have a marching band, we have a jazz band, I just love where I work.
Yeah.
And I love my kids, and I, like I said, if I have to I don't know, I will find them an instrument if they need it.
No, and I mean it is so difficult for any school system to find a way to equitably teach all kids, right? Because the material means of a family often dictates how much effort a child can put into school or extracurricular activities or whatever that may be.
Right.
And go ahead.
Well, yeah, and you said it. The word is equitable. I mean, we need to make sure, especially for our young kids, that they are getting what they need. Every kid learns differently. And I think any kid, regardless of their learning abilities, their social, economic, whatever, I think music is one of those things that anybody would be able to experience somehow or another.
Yeah. I mean, it moves people, it moves the kids, and can really give them something to latch on to.
Sure. I know kids who I've had over the years that said that the band, and not only the CMS but CCHS, being part of that family too has been a lifesaver for them. And it was for me. If I didn't have that, I would have been a mess. Really.
Well, it just makes sense as to why it's so important to this place and the spirit of Carbondale, and how the spirit of Carbondale as a whole really feeds into the work that you do. Who is the band director? Oh my gosh, he would have been the same band director from when I was probably in school.
At the high school is Greg Townsend.
Greg. So I mean, it's the work that you guys do very much feeds into this continuous loop of a musical culture in Carbondale, in Southern Illinois, that because you guys have gotten to experience this in your own particular ways, you can take that and then put that into you teaching with the students. The students, as they grow up, they get out into the scene, into this broader environment that is a mix of both commercial and recreational music playing, and now we've created that next generation of folks. I mean, how I feel like Robbie is a really good example of that because of Robbie,
Right.
who's now principal, right?
Right.
And how that comes from Rip being a high school teacher, and
Sure.
yeah, just how it all comes together.
And kind of a funny note how the Robbie or the Robbies,
Yeah, the Robbies.
Robbie Stokes, IE instead of the Y. So this is I don't want to say old Robbie, but I'm going to call him old Robbie. So when he was a kid, he used to sit in with my dad's band when they played. They had the house gig at the Ramada Inn that was on the far west side of town. They played 6 nights a week.
Do what?
And yeah, I mean that's back when they had live music in Carbondale, and Robbie, I mean, Charlie Morrill, all of the senior members of music in Southern Illinois have kind of gone through there, and it's kind of cool to see how generation to generation how it's been passed down. And little Robbie, as I still call him, or Principal Robbie, I should probably call him now. He's an amazing musician himself, and I know his children they're going to be musical too. I can't. It's in the blood.
Yeah, no, and it's neat, and the effect that it just has on so many people out and out, and I look at somebody like Tajay as a good example of
Tajay. Let's talk about Tajay for a second.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Okay, so when my very first year at Carbondale, Tajay's mom was working as an aide at the middle school. And she was in one of my music classes, and she said, "Can you teach my boy drums?" And I said, "Well, how old is he?" "Well, he's in second grade." I'm like, a little young, don't you think?" "Oh no, he can play the heck out of drums." So I said, "Bring him to the school, and we'll see." So I remember little Tajay coming to the middle school. I set him in front of the drum set and handed him some sticks, and he was just tearing the drums up. I'm like, "Yeah, I'll teach him some drum lessons." And I knew right away Tajay was just such a talented kid, and it was such a pleasure to work with him, and just to see him grow. And I had his sister too in band. She's an amazing musician as well. But I just remember the first time seeing Tajay, just this little boy, so excited to play drums, could barely reach the kick drum pedal on the drum set. But, oh, my goodness, I said, I've got to teach this kid some lessons. And I'm so proud to see how he's taken off with it. And, it's like a proud papa moment.
It's good.
So.
It's good. It should be. It should be. I mean, we just seen him do his thing. And, it's arguably his music's not my type of music. I'm not really a metal guy, a heavy, the screamo type stuff, all the sorts of stuff he's into. But like, arguably, I always look at some of these things or some of these genres of music as very similar to classical music in how varied the music that comes out is, right? It's not just 4-chord songs over and over again. It's very much, changes throughout songs and, throughout lines of music, whatever it may be. And I don't know exactly where I'm going with this. I kind of got lost in my thought because I've been doing that since the car wreck last week. But the whole thought there that just generally musically capable, that he can just pick it up and run with it wherever, and that he's got his preferred versions that he plays, but they're just they are themselves advanced versions of the generic pop music that we can listen to and consume now.
And I tell my students this: there are two kinds of music. There's good music and there's bad music. Bad music. Yoko Ono. Bad music. I'm not afraid to say that. If I offend you, Yoko, too bad.
Too bad. I've never listened to Yoko Ono, so I'm probably I'm probably doing all right.
Well, let's imagine like cats outside screaming at like 3 a.m. I don't know
what was the show that used to be on WDBX that was just like avant-garde noise? They had something very similar on WSIU as well. That's just like,
I'm sure they played some Yoko.
Oh God. So what is good music then? Every other bit of music that's not Yoko Ono? No.
Here's the thing. I play a lot of music for my students, and especially now since we're doing remote teaching, it's not exactly like we can all play as a band together. So one of the things that I really push for is let's experience music, good and bad. And we've listened to everything from Thundercat, which is a tremendous jazz musician, not to be confused with the terrible 80s cartoon The Thundercats.
Whoa, terrible.
Oh, it's horrible.
No, but Thundercats.
Oh.
Anyway, sorry.
Bad. To Esperanza Spalding, and then like I was saying earlier, for marching bands, a lot of HBC bands, some drum corps stuff, and then of course we've seen like the Eastman Wind Ensemble. So we've seen a lot of classical, a lot of jazz, Miles Davis, and then I've played Rolling Stones. I've played some Beatles for them. Believe it or not, there are kids that do not know who the Beatles are.
I'm not a big music listener, and I've never really listened to the Beatles up until the most recent couple of years. So I can see how somebody who's 10, 12, 14, whatever, wouldn't have any context of.
But at the same time, I've got students who know who Billie Holiday is and Nat King Cole. So it's
awesome.
really cool to have kids tell me who their inspiration is or who they like to listen to. I had one kid say they like the Rat Pack, Frank and all those guys. And this is a 12-year-old kid that you wouldn't think,
Oh God, Jimmy, no, don't look at the man with the fedora. What are you doing?
Right.
Ah!
Right? That's mafioso music. No.
So you're a hat guy too.
Yes, I am.
And
for obvious reasons. Look how shiny this is. I used to have a beautiful thick head of hair. And
did you really?
I really did. I go through some CCHS yearbooks, and you'll see me with a nice, large, thick mane, and it just magically vanished. But hey, bald is beautiful, right?
Was it overnight? Like when did you realize it all had to come off because there was?
Well, eventually when I started getting just patches of hair, and then I had like this one tuft of hair right here and nothing around it. I'm like, okay, time to get the Bic out and shave it. And I've had students tell me, Mr. Frick, grow your hair out. 2 months later, and just like a few spots of hair come out. They're like, no, make it stop.
So it's the opposite of like most, when kids get challenged to something in school and the payoff is you get to shave the principal's head or something. Yours is the opposite. The trick is you gotta grow your
Hey, I would love that. Hey, give me some hair transplants. We'll do it.
Man.
I miss my hair, but it's a lot easier to maintain without it. I haven't been to a barber in 15 years or longer. And but no, I love to wear hats. And I just recently I want to give a shout out to Mr. Qualls and his hat shop because he's got a beautiful array of hats that I have been eyeballing, and I've purchased one recently, a nice summer hat. So there's a difference between summer hats and winter hats.
I sure don't,
right?
but I imagine you're about to tell me.
Okay. Well, so your spring and summer hats are usually made out of straw or a lighter material, and your winter hats are wool. And so if you see somebody in the middle of the summer wearing a wool fedora, they don't know their hats.
They're not a hat guy.
No, they're not a hat person. So
is Will Stevens equally a hat guy?
I think Will and I are on par with hats.
Okay.
I think Will was mad because I bought the hat that he was going to buy from the hat store. So, sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, that's phenomenal. No, so I like the whole generational thing. So Robbie grows up playing music with your dad,
right? Well, he wasn't a member of my dad's band, but
he
had
was
sat in
around.
with me.
Sorry, I guess I should say having that exposure to it.
Sure. And it's kind of funny. There, one of one of the bigger bands from Carbondale from the 70s, the Dixie Diesels, that had Sean Colvin in it, was kind of a splinter off of my dad's band. My dad's band was Ron and the Bossmen, and the drummer for my dad's group at the time was Brad Davis, and then Brad Davis and crew formed the Dixie Diesels after that. And Charlie Morrill and some of the guys that were in the Diesels would be able to tell you how that morphed better than I can, because I just wasn't around. But a lot of bands today are morphed from bands from yesterday. Ivis John's band is a conglomeration of different bands all in one. I think he got his start with the Blues Bandits, which was, they were pretty happening band for a while. And then he played, of course, with Big Larry. Who hasn't played with Big Larry in Southern Illinois?
Right.
Or has been fired. I mean, everybody's been fired by Big Larry, too.
So let's touch on two things there.
Okay.
One, how you get fired by Big Larry, and then two, cycling back to how did you get kicked out of your own band?
Well, you want the Big Larry story first?
Pick one. Hey, it's up to you. You're the guest.
I love Big Larry, and I miss him to death. He gave me so many opportunities and gave so many musicians opportunities, but he also had a little bit of a temper. Where if you didn't do exactly what he wanted, he would go James Brown on you and just fire you, and sometimes on the spot. One of my favorite stories, and we did this on Big Larry's documentary about 10 years ago, but we were opening for Buddy Guy. It was Springfest, and I don't remember what year it was. We were playing in the huge parking lot of SIU Arena, and it was full of people. I bet there was 5,000 people there.
Yeah.
So this is back when Spring Thing was really a thing.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And we were opening up for Buddy Guy. It was the Southern Illinois Blues All-Stars, and it was fronted by Big Larry. I think Tall Paul was in the group at the time. This was a group that Joe C. from Soundcore had put together.
Yeah.
I was in the horn section, large horn section. We did arrangements and in practice. And the drummer was one of Joe's employees at the music store, who wasn't that great of a drummer, quite honestly. And we had recorded the previous week a TV show for Studio A used to have at Channel 8 used to have a TV show for local acts and things like that. And we had just recorded that TV show with this kid on the drums, and he did okay. But I'll never forget, and this has been a few years ago, but I remember Big Larry saying something to the effect, slow blues, which was his way of counting off the tune. The drummer starts playing this wacky rock beat, and this amazing look of anger and horror from Big Larry's face. I'll never forget it. It's just implanted in my brain. And he stops the drummer. We're playing in front of 5,000 people, right? And he tells him to get the F off the stage on his microphone. And the kid's mortified. And we're all just standing there like, okay, what are we going to do? And James Barnes, another local talent that's played in several bands over the years, including King Juba, happened to be in the audience. Big Larry's like, hey, James, get up here, man. Get up on the stage. James gets up on the stage, plays on that kid's drum set for the rest of the show.
And that was that kid's drum set.
Yeah. That could have been Soundcore's drum set. Who knows?
Yeah.
But that's one memory that's cemented in my mind forever. And there's been many cases where it would be funny. We would play another friend of mine, Mickey Richardson, who plays drums and had played with Big Larry and my dad over the years and other musicians. We played at Von Jakob one time, and we were playing Mustang Sally of all songs. And Mickey messed up or something like that, and Larry gets on the microphone. Mickey, if I had my gun right now, I'd kill you. Like, we're playing in front of an audience, to an audience member, that's probably pretty scary, but I thought it was hilarious. So that's the Big Larry story. And there's been many times where he's told a musician, don't play this, don't use that cymbal, don't play tambourine on this song. Or he would tell me, Shadi, play a solo. Okay, that's enough of that solo. And God love him. I miss him to death. I was on my toes at every gig. But, that really, playing in his band gave me the confidence really to be able to play in other groups.
Yeah.
As far as my own group, it started out as an SIU jazz combo called Good and Plenty. And we booked a lot of gigs on campus throughout the town. We used to play at the Melange Coffee House. And then we had really good jazz guitar player Zach Harris came to this through the School of Music and became part of the jazz combo just through the class. And so we started including him in gigs. The thing that stinks about the college is if you're in a good group, somebody graduates and moves away.
Yeah.
We got to replace him with somebody. So Zach came in and immediately changed the name of the group to Caravan. And we started working with, as people morphed, we had a kind of a core group. And we landed a house gig at Tres Hombres every Monday night. And we did that for years. And there was a new sax professor at SIU, Todd Raywalt. And I had asked him the semester that I was student teaching, I'm like, Todd, can you sub for me on Monday nights? Because I'm going to be student teaching. This is my big semester to make it or break it.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And so Todd filled in for me. And then after I graduated, I came back for one Monday night. And Todd was still there. And I thought, well, this is a little awkward.
Yeah.
And the next day, I get a phone call from Zach. Hey, Shad, this is Zach.
Oh, no.
We're not going to need you anymore.
Oh, no.
And, and Caravan continued for a few years afterwards with different instrumentation, and eventually it fizzled out, and Zach moved to Minneapolis, and he's a very successful jazz musician up there, and I wish him the best. But nothing worse than getting fired from what I felt was my baby,
So that's another interesting question
Sure.
to ask, is that how do you manage the relationships in music when there is this much interconnectivity, people's personalities, people coming in and out of bands, people getting fired from bands, people
Sure.
getting hired to bands? Like, wait, do you just kind of like let stuff roll off your shoulders and it is what it is type thing? Or how do you handle that?
In some cases, you have to let some things roll off. Because being in a band is being in a relationship.
Yeah.
And a very close relationship. Like my friends in King Juba and with Secondhand Cartoons. I'll start with Juba. I played in King Juba. We've been together 12 years.
Wow.
12 or 13 years.
That's awesome.
And, so out of the group, it's Dave Parrish, James Barnes, Mike Aldifer plays bass, and I play keys and sax. And then occasionally Chris Rigdon, who is my grade school music teacher.
He was my grade school principal at Giant City.
There you go.
It's a small
world.
world in Carbondale.
He's a fantastic saxophonist and great friend, and he subs for me a lot. Or if Mike can't play bass, I'll switch to bass, and Chris will play saxophone. The thing that's nice about Juba is we know each other so well, and we've played together so long. It's very stress-free. And then in other bands that I've played with, it's been more of a professional relationship where you do your job, and that's about all you see of the musicians until your next rehearsal or whatever. And then, like, with Secondhand Cartoons, it's like family. Jermaine's like my brother to me. We're very close.
I feel I will never... I will always have in the back of my mind how much I owe Jermaine, because when I was around the first year or two that I was doing stuff for Steve at Quattro's. Like I don't even remember how I reached out to Jermaine, but I was like, "Hey man, can you try and redo the jingle just to give it a little more pizzazz, whatever?" And then Steve is just core business, right? There's never, we're not interested in the creative or the this, that, the other. And he shopped it around to several folks and is like, I don't like it. And that was that. And I always felt so bad because Jermaine dumped heart and soul into that remix. And it was a good remix, like musically, but it just wasn't exactly a jingle. And I think that's kind of what folks' feedback gave to Steve. And ever since then, I've just always figured out like, how do I do little favors when I can for Jermaine because I owe him for this time years ago, and that has been on my chest forever, Shadi. I've never told him about it. I don't tell other people about it.
He's going to know because I'm going to tell him to watch his podcast.
Now he's going to know. Jermaine, I've always felt some sort of concern for that time that I didn't launch that jingle that you remade for me, and I liked it, and I appreciated it, and thank you still, and I still owe you favors and will for many years to come. There we go.
Jermaine, let's cut an invoice for him. We'll split it 50-50. But yeah, Jermaine, and see, so secondhand cartoons is a lot of fun because for me, it's a lot of music that I really don't listen to.
Yeah.
I'm a blues and jazz kind of guy, and cartoons is a pop band. Mm-hmm. So we do Journey, Michael Jackson, Maroon 5, that kind of stuff. So it was really kind of a school for me to learn these tunes that to a lot of people are just everyday radio songs. That's why we call it secondhand cartoons. Because it's stuff you'd hear on the radio.
I like the name, the idea of secondhand cartoons, like playing off of the idea of secondhand smoke and catching the. It's a really good name.
Yeah,
it's a really good name. Kudos.
I can't tell you what the original name of the band was going to be. It's not appropriate for broadcast.
Oh, dude, we're on the internet. You can say it. Just say it. Unless you think you're going to get in trouble because you're a teacher at the school.
I might get in trouble. I'll just say it was much more inappropriate than secondhand cartoons. We'll just leave it at that.
Fair enough.
But out of this group, it's Jermaine and his wife Mallory plays keys, and then Bob. Oh my gosh, here goes my brain again.
Right.
Bob Marlowe plays guitar. I play bass. And
Is
then
Bob related to Chad by chance?
I have no idea.
Okay, cool. Just last name connection. Continue.
Yeah, there's a lot of Marlowes in Southern Illinois.
Yeah.
But and then we have a few different drummers. We have Mike, we have Jimmy, and Grant, who's actually one of my students. Mm-hmm. And so we have Mike's our main drummer, and I can't think of Mike's last name for my life right now. But you know, we all have a really good friendship and working relationship together. And the thing that's fun about Jermaine and I is, you know, he and I will bicker about tunes. Mm-hmm. And I will say he has the upper hand on the knowledge when it comes to pop music, for sure. And every song that we play has been in the top 10 on some chart.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's been a good experience for me. It's been a lot of fun. At first, there was a lot of pushback. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, I thought we were going to be like a funk and soul band, and we were just going to do this. And he's like, Shadi, you playing 50 funk and soul bands. Let's do a pop band. I'm like, okay, we'll give it a shot. And I really did. I really pushed back on it, you know. And now I'm glad that I just went along and learned the stuff and played it because people like the music. Uh-huh. It's not something you hear every day. We don't play Mustang Sally, thank God, or Wagon Wheel.
Freebird.
Or Freebird, no. I don't care if that was number 1 for 10 years. No. But it's a lot of fun. The other, you know, those are my two main groups that I play with now. I've subbed for Ivis quite a few times, and he's just a very talented musician and a good guy to work with. I've played with Larry Dillard, and I've played, goodness gracious, it's going to be like the beginning of the show where I'm just listing off people
right, just
again.
keep
But
traveling. Well, how do you find time? Like, I know that your life is music, right? And that's one thing that kind of helps you get along on that aspect. That part of your work is music.
Sure.
Part of your hobbies are music. I'm sure with the kids that it's all music and music. But like even at that, being in several bands all at once and still teaching and doing all these things, what do you do to balance that? How does that happen? Or do you just not and kind of throw it to the wind and let it
I could be
ride?
silly and say that's the reason why I have no hair. But the reality is you really have to have a good balance. Especially after my kids were born, I wanted to make sure that I was there for them. I mean, they're number one to me. And, to me, I'm a father first.
Yeah.
And I will, I try to, I used to play 4 or 5 nights a week. First of all, as a school teacher, only one person I knew that could do that was Buddy Rogers, who was my saxophone teacher. And he was a very successful band director and still played gigs almost every night for years.
Yeah.
And it had the house gig at Pinch Penny playing with Mercy for 40 years. I don't know how he did it, but it's really a balance. And for me, if I'm playing, there for a while, I was playing every weekend, and it still worked. Sometimes it's every other weekend. Sometimes it's 3 times a weekend. But I make sure, or at least I try my best to make sure that it doesn't take away from my family, and or take away from my profession. I'm a professional musician, but my professional job as a teacher.
Yeah.
I would never.
You're not going to go out gigging all night and partying hard.
Oh,
Just
no.
well, just to drop off work the next day.
And that's the other thing too. When I'm working as a musician, I will not. I will not party per se. A lot of times musicians get the free booze and whatever. I might have a drink.
Yeah.
But I learned as a young, stupid college student years ago that could make you fail miserably.
Yeah.
If you're trying to play a gig. And
is there one particular story that you have in mind that sticks out?
Oh my goodness. I was playing with the band Chicken Foot Gumbo, and we were playing at the Cellar of all things. And Paul Stokes and his wife were handing me this nice top shelf whiskey on ice, like before the gig, during the first set. I don't think I made it past the first set.
Oh no!
And I was I carried up to my truck where I slept, and I really don't remember that. And that was it for me.
Yeah.
I mean, one time screw up. I mean, thank goodness it was a situation where I was amongst friends and people that I knew that was forgiving.
Yep.
Because I mean, that could make or break somebody professionally if you do something stupid.
Absolutely.
And and I'm very honest about that with my students. I don't go over specifics with stupid things, but I say, be careful what you do, because it could really affect the rest of your life negatively if you're not careful.
I mean, one mistake.
Yeah.
That's it.
It really can make or break you. And not only that, but from a health standpoint, and from the fact that I'm really, really adamant against drinking and driving, it's just not a good mix. And what other job would I go get drink booze and work?
Yeah.
I mean,
you're not. I mean, the reality, you're not going to show up to the office every day and be like, hey, got a thermos full of vodka here.
If I went to school and instead of a soda machine, they had a beer machine. Oh, it's lunch break. Oh, I got to teach jazz band here in a few minutes.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna have to pony up for the tall boy on this one. Cacao.
Wait, yeah, it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
I mean, could you see somebody like I'm imagining a roofer. Somebody working on the roof of a house just blitzed.
Yeah.
I mean, just talk about a mistake.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, man. And I've experienced it, in the comedy world. Like, and that is the difference. No matter what level of professionalism you're at, right? Whether it's $5 or 5,000, if somebody's paying you, you're a professional.
Absolutely.
So that's textbook definition right there, and that you've got to take it seriously. You don't have to take it as if it's not fun, but you do have to take it as if it is work, because at the end of the day, you got two options when you're producing art. It is either work, or it is entertainment and for development of self.
Sure.
Right? And you can do either or, but you really need to be focused if you're approaching it from a standpoint of work.
Right. Well, and even in my studio at home, I could very easily sit back in my chair, mix some tunes, and pound away some beverages.
Mm-hmm.
But still, if I'm working for a client or even on my own stuff, I want to be fresh.
Sharp.
I don't want to be clouded
Yep.
in chemicals or whatever. It's not my thing. And I know some people that swear by whatever they do to makes their music better or whatever, and that's fine if it works for them, but it doesn't for me. And especially if I want to lead by example,
Yeah.
I try to be a what you see is what you get kind of person.
Yep.
And I don't want to be an example for my students that says, no, you shouldn't do this, this, and this, and then go play a gig the weekend and just get wasted.
Yeah.
What kind of hypocrite would I be?
Mm-hmm.
I just can't do that. I really can't. So very, very often people ask me, well, where do you ever go out to this place or do you ever go out to that place? I'm like, the only time I ever really get to go out is if I'm playing a job somewhere.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm very much a homebody,
Mm-hmm.
where I get to enjoy my family and work in my studio.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, I think there's a thin line between, having fun and being just stupid.
Yeah.
And I've worked with musicians who are fantastic musicians when they are straight-headed, but boy, once they either, God knows what they ingest,
Mm-hmm.
are just not able to play.
Yeah.
And it's really sad, and frustrating for me, especially if I'm playing a supporting instrument like bass or something, and I'm having to pull somebody along because they're just so blitzed that they can't perform.
Yeah.
And thankfully that hasn't happened very much recently. But, in my younger days, our funk band Minimum Wage, there'd be a couple people in the band. I mean, it was a 10-piece band.
Yeah. Oh wow.
And
that's a big band.
we were modeled off the Blues Brothers, really.
Okay.
And get a couple of the guys in the band, especially in the horn section, those darn horn players, would just pound away at the liquor, and
It's because you can hide your breath in the
oh,
instrument.
I guess. And by the last set of the evening, they sounded like trash, and I would get so frustrated because we were a good band, and to just hear the quality from my standpoint just died because of choices.
Yeah.
Ugh. Okay, I'm off my soapbox.
No, you're good, man. I tell you what, that's really perfect, because I like to kind of wrap these things up with. We always, about the hour mark, we always land somewhere on a lesson. It just seems like that's where the conversation goes, and that's where you landed on, was kind of that final lesson. Take it seriously. It's all you got to do. If you really want to do something in music and performance and art, take it seriously.
Absolutely. And even though you're taking it seriously, have fun with it.
Yep.
You got to love it, because if you're not loving it, you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Yep.
But yeah, I remember when I was in the School of Music at SIU, how so many students, fellow musicians that were so talented, but were just didn't want to practice.
Yeah.
And then, when it came time to perform, they wondered why they stunk. Well, there's practice rooms there for a reason.
Yep.
And on the other hand, I knew some musicians that lived in the practice rooms and had no social life, But now they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars playing for professional symphony orchestras and things like that. So either or.
You get out of it what you put into it.
Right.
Shadi, I really appreciate the time, man.
Thank you so much.
It was a really good show. And that's episode 10. Shadi Frick kind of breaking us into the bit of musical history here in Carbondale. Hopefully we'll be able to bring on some more of the folks that he's talked about in this interview. I've got just a couple folks in mind off the top of my head, so we'll see if we can get them on here in due time while Shadi's interview is fresh in our minds just as well. So thanks for watching, folks. Have a good one, whatever that one may be.